Hello, my friend, and welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and I am Heather, and I am super excited that you are here. And I just want to let you know that you're going to hear some tips and some tricks, some ideas, all to help you live your happiest and healthiest life. It is called Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, then you can take better care of others. And my goal is to make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way. I am really happy that you're here. Your true self is waiting. So it is time to step up and thrive. Hello, my podcast friends. Welcome to the Back to Me podcast. And I'm super excited that you're here and checking in and looking for something new for you, because you always have the opportunity to decide to do something different. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm talking with Jessie Torres, and I see you're the founder of Fierce Grace. I love that, like that image that pulls up. And I've put you down as a pain alchemist, which sounds pretty amazing. But before we get into all that, because I think that'll lead into what you're doing now, like what drew you into this of becoming a pain alchemist?
That's a great question. Thank you for having me, Heather. I'm super excited to be here. What drew me to doing that was a product of my own journey, of my own times of pain, where my journey brought a justification to be in sadness, depression, or anger, where I had every reason to hold on to my pain and limit my life. Ultimately, sometimes when we do that, we don't know we're limiting our lives. We're just feeling our emotions and we don't know how to break out of it. So time and time again, after going through different, abuse and different tragedies, I knew that I had to find something else, because if I didn't, I would only suffer.
Right. And so when we're talking pain, because people might take it in many ways. So are you talking a physical pain, or is that an emotional pain that people carry? And I mean, both of them are challenging.
Very much.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, not always, there's always blunt trauma or accidents, of course, but oftentimes our inner workings, our mindset, our emotions are a product of our unhealthiness. Our stress or our depression can turn into autoimmune, or those kind of things. So it's more around our mental state and our emotional home.
Right. And it's true. And going at it from the other direction, I spoke with Jenny Harkleroad in April, and she was talking about using the pain in the body and how it was coming from the brain. So she was going in that way, and you're coming in the other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you find that helps people to recognize, like you recognize that you are sitting with things, and I feel like people in the audience will sit back and go, oh yeah, she's doing stuff, but sometimes it's hard to see it in yourself that
right.
you're settling, or that you aren't in your best possible place. So how do you find that you can help people kind of get to that space, or what's something that would trigger them to go, oh, that's what you mean?
Well, it's a great question, because that's ultimately how I help people. It's not so much about finding the trauma of the past. It's more about, where are you limited now, right? Where are you not asking for the promotion? Where are you not having the uncomfortable conversation? Where are you not standing up for yourself? Where is your relationship not, filled with passion and joy, right? So it's, where do you feel stuck? And as we unpack it, it has a invisible thread, I call it, to something that happened in the past and a meaning that we made when we didn't know. And I'd like to define trauma, because to your point, sometimes people will say, oh no, I don't have trauma. I had a great upbringing. Everything was great, blah, 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 right? And that's wonderful. But life will give you these micro traumas that we don't know we're writing a meaning around, right? It's just what we do as human beings. As a little child, if someone treats you unkindly, you immediately anchor not enoughness, or why would they do that? Or, why are they being mean to me? They took your lunchbox. So now you're going to be holding onto your lunchbox a little tighter the next day. And you got that hypervigilance starts to get created. And we start to record, in our minds that maybe there's something wrong with me, or I don't understand. We lose that sense of innocence, and we start to create meaning around it. Now that same child is 35 and clings to everything, including his relationships, and has become controlling, insecure, and jealous, and has no idea why,
Right.
And it comes down to that moment where the child made the unconscious meaning.
Right. And I mean, I know sometimes myself, the word trauma makes me go, it's because the trauma sounds like such a big word. And I think it sounds like something, you see in emergency rooms, and
right,
blood and guts flying everywhere. Like, trauma seems so big, but it's like these incidents are, I feel like the incidents in life like that are like little triggers of things, give you that opportunity. I'm going to give you a little poke right here. Let's see how you react. And if you don't have, little kids don't have a way to process in that way, right? They don't understand. They haven't developed to that point yet of saying, well, that wasn't really what that was about. That was them just having a bad day,
Right.
And then when you get older, they're so stuck.
And open-hearted and
right?
ready to play and ready to be joyful. And then when those things happen, we start to build what I call heart armor. Right? We start to armor around our hearts because, we don't want to feel that pain again. And I love what you said about trauma. I agree. Most people think it's the big rape or something really traumatic, which of course it is. However, I believe trauma is whatever the child made meaning of in the moment of the experience. Right? It's these things that get recorded in our unconscious mind that now we're living our lenses through as we develop an identity. Right? If a little 5-year-old goes to the grocery store with his mother and is playing in the aisle with toys, she goes to the end of the aisle to grab something. She can see him, but he can't see her. He lifts up his head and screams, "Mommy, where are you?" And she's like, "It's like 10 seconds. I'm right here." But in that moment, he anchors, I could be abandoned. I could be left behind. Right. And so now fast forward again, now you're 30 years old and you don't know why you're very insecure and you're afraid everyone's going to leave you. Right. So it's those things that we don't recognize. That's why I work with a lot of achievers and a lot of account executives or entrepreneurs, and they're a massive success, right, in their life according to achievement.
Right.
But they don't even realize that their exhaustion and their burnout is tied to believing their worthiness is on the achievement.
Right.
That's what makes them enough.
So it's interesting because I feel like it's two different children would have two different reactions, because there's people who come through life the same thing would be interpreted differently, or they figured out how to adjust and become kind of a balanced human being. But it's like, I wonder have you noticed anything that is the differences between people that can cause some people to find their way and untangle, and some people get so stuck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually have a story around that in regards to twin brothers who were raised by alcoholic parents, right? And one became an alcoholic and was divorced and losing his family. And at the interview, it's just like, so what happened? And his response was, well, don't you know, my parents were alcoholics. So of course that's what's going to happen to me. That's why. Right. And then you ask the other twin who was successful, had a beautiful family and was thriving. And you say, so what happened to you? And he's like, well, don't you know, I had alcoholic parents. So I never wanted to live that life. Right. So it's like every individual has its own journey, its own divine contract that says, this is my life path. This is what I'm going to choose. We ultimately don't realize we have a choice. Right. And how can we now reframe alcoholic parents, right, into what not to do versus now I'm going to be that too, because that's what I was shown. Right.
And it's so interesting, especially in the instance of twins, because you would think that they were fairly close in likeness, like
Mhm.
not just visually, that they would take such a dramatically different view of their experience. And I always find it fascinating that that whole different flip of seeing it from one way or the other.
Mhm.
Will I believe this is my destiny, or will I use this as a lesson?
Right.
And I think that's super important to people.
I don't think we realize that we can make a conscious decision. We
Right?
can decide.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we feel like it's out of our control. You don't understand blank, right? And it's
Yeah.
our own disempowerment, but we actually have the key out of our own prison.
Do you find that when people see it, they run to it or they run away from it? Like the change, like, no, I'm going back deeper.
Run to what?
Run to change it or run away in the other direction and pretend they never
There's
saw
both.
it,
People do
right?
both. You know, it's
Oh
like
my
some
goodness.
they think that change is too dramatic. It's too big. I can't do that. They already feel unworthy and not enough. So who am I to be sober and thrive and make good money and be successful? I don't know that because my parents drank and I wasn't enough for them to stop. Right?
Right.
Why didn't they, when I told them to please stop, they didn't. So it must be my problem. And again, this is unconscious. We don't
Yeah.
consciously say, I'm going to decide that, that I'm going to be an alcoholic because my parents didn't love me. We don't do that. It's an unconscious thing. And so everybody has their own life path. I call it the divine choreography. Each of us has our own and our own contract with God, our creator.
Right. And how do you help people find that path out of it? I mean,
It's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, the way out of it, believe it or not, it may sound simple, but it's hard for people. So it's basically identifying the other truth. So I'll use myself as an example. I had abuse with my father, right? So when I was little, I would build traps to warn me when he was coming into my room. Okay. And so we can look at that and go, wow, how tragic that a little girl had to build traps to warn her. It didn't really stop him, but it made me feel better. Or there's another story. And what I see in that little girl is a very brave little girl. I see a very creative little girl, a resourceful little girl. All of that is true as well, that sometimes like we don't know what we've got until our knees hit the floor, right? For me in that moment, I now am witness to her beauty and her power because I didn't know that I was going to need resourcefulness, creativity, and courage when I was going to get a divorce 25 years later, right? Like I didn't know that, but our creator did. It's just like, ooh, Jessie, if you knew why I need you to go through this right now, because I know what's coming. So hang in there and get through it. So now I cannot unsee my little self as a victim anymore. I can only see myself as that courageous little girl, and I fall in love with her. Now that union creates an empowerment where I can't default to the old setting, right? I can't see the wounded child anymore. I see it, but it doesn't affect me because I see the power and I choose the power.
Right. And it's interesting you say that it's simple, but it is hard for people if they're so caught up in the story that they've been telling themselves for like consciously or unconsciously for forever and ever, that reframing it is simple and hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you just told me that story, I was like, wow, she was pretty awesome before you said you were creative. And I was like, wow, that's like inventive. How smart was that? And it is a skill. It is a skill to come up with these things. Little kids are very resilient and very inventive.
And what we do though, when those things happen is we stay angry, right? And we stay in blame, and we look at that as like, how could that's terrible. And, and we have this high opinion. I mean, and I did it for years. I judged my little girl, my inner child a lot. Like I grew up now and I'm all smart. So I'm looking at her going, you should have done more to fight him off. You should have kicked him, screamed, poked his eye. You should, because now I'm all smart and everything. Right. And all I'm doing is beating myself up for not having done more. I was a little girl. I didn't know. And it was my father. You know what I mean? Right. But that's what we do. Right. So then I'm angry and I go to blame. He shouldn't have done that. And when we walk around saying things shouldn't have happened, were in an argument with the reality that it did.
Right.
I'm not saying it was okay, but it did happen. So I can choose to pull the muscle and the power, or I can choose to focus on the pain.
Right. And shoulds are just, they're toxic in a way. I should do this. I should have been that. This should be this way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can alter your reality and stop shooting all over yourself by, just like you said, just change that view of what happened. I just keep seeing the twins, one standing on this side and one standing on this side. It's like the blind men and the elephant, right? It's like, no, it's like a rope. No, it's like a snake. No, it's like a tree. I mean, do you know what I'm referring to? Okay. There's like this, I don't know if it's a parable or something, where 1 to 4 blind men come up to an elephant and each feels it to say what it is. Mm-hmm. One of them grabs the tail and says it's a rope. One of them grabs the trunk and says, no, it's like a snake. One grabs the leg and says, no, it's like a tree. And one is touching the side and says, no, it's like a wall. They're all right. They're just all have a different perception of what's going on.
Right.
And if the twins are, one of them just said, nope, this isn't for me. I'm going this way. It would have been so different a turn of events if the other twin had used his brother. Were they boys? His brother instead of his parents as a example, right?
Right.
So you can choose it's like you can choose to look up at where you want to be, or you can look down, and when you're looking down, you get pulled down, I feel like. So helping people shift their eyes upwards to something better is,
well, the thing is, it's not always that example, though. It's their inner work, right? Sometimes, I have twins, so I know that so there's competition. There's, one got his hair cut, the other one didn't, and people are like, oh, nice haircut, and they're like, oh, so my hair sucks. It's this comparison kind of thing. And if one is thriving because they made an unconscious decision to never be like their parents, now he's doing good in school. He's, because he's chose a different perspective, again, unconscious. The other one's like, you always get good grades. It's not easy for me. It's hard for me. So you're the golden child, so now they start to do that, which creates more unworthiness in them. Right. And it's this inner battle.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
and it's
the
so
inner work
interesting.
That needs to be done.
It's so interesting that, and I've heard myself, I don't say it anymore, but I've heard myself say things like that. It's like, oh, this looks nice. Oh, so I didn't look nice the other day. It's like, they're not mutually exclusive. One thing being good doesn't mean the other thing is bad. Friends, put that in your notebook. And I know that so I want you to tell me about the 10-step guide to freedom, because when you ask people what they want from life, inevitably freedom comes up, and everybody's idea of what freedom is completely different, I think.
Very much.
Or maybe it's just a feeling that they want. So when you're giving them a guide to freedom, this sounds like something people will want, I'm predicting. Absolutely.
Well, it's, again, sometimes, people will push back and say, I get that, Jessie, but you don't understand my pain. You don't know what I'm up against, or I'm in a situation where I can't get out. I can't make a decision. I'm hitting 4 walls. I have no money, and so this is a way to be able to take steps right now, no matter what your situation, to start liberating yourself, whether that is from your situation, whether that is from your mental situation, your emotional situation. There's things that you can take steps to do right now to start freeing yourself, but you've got to decide, and you've got to believe that it's possible.
Right. And it's true. You will hear quite often, oh, I can't leave him or him or her because I can't afford to pay my own rent, or I have nowhere to go, or I can't change jobs because, or I can't, divorce my family because
they don't realize that they're dying a little bit every day.
Right.
And they've learned to normalize it. They've learned to normalize where they're living and to tolerate anything but divine love and cherishing and all of that. And they've learned to, oh, it's not that bad. He only beats me twice. It's not every day anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, and we start to normalize this behavior. And so we think, well, we'll tolerate because now it's better, and I don't know where I'm going to get the money anyway. And again, it's starting to kill your soul. I lived that too.
Right. And every person on the planet has value. Even the people who, quote unquote, are doing bad things, they have value, but they have lost somehow. Like they're exhibiting, I feel like their powerlessness is exhibiting in a harmful way to others. Mm-hmm. And other people's powerlessness is exhibiting as letting that other side of it affect them. And knowing that every human has value and is valuable and has purpose. If we could step into that place, I think we would live on a different planet. Like it would just be so amazing. And I wouldn't have jobs anymore, which I know.
I was just going to say that's just the thing. It's not quite that easy for people, and so they need to believe it's possible. Two, and that's why I'm here. Like I literally believe that I'm grateful for every part of my journey. And I know that if I can come to a place of complete apathy, wishing somebody would blow the red light so I could be done with this life, and to be here now, very passionate about helping people get out of suffering, then so can you. There's nothing that you can share with me that will shock me. I think the depth of your darkness is converse to the height of your light. So the deeper the darkness, the higher the light, if you choose it. And so I think we all have that opportunity. We just don't know it.
So are you saying you sat at a red light and just wanted somebody to hit you?
Yeah.
And how did you choose? Like, what was the thing that kicked you in the butt and made you decide that you were worth it?
That's such a great question. You ready for the answer?
Yeah.
Like, lean in. The secret. It was kindness. So in my marriage, I was so controlled that I didn't associate with people. And I took a class, and that was very hard to get approval to go based on my marriage. And these people were kind to me, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know to call it kindness. I just knew that whatever this feeling is, I thought, if this feeling's available, then life is worth living.
Right.
And they will never know who they woke up. Right. But it gave me a reason, because what I was experiencing was the death of my spirit, the death of my soul, being, beat verbally and emotionally. If this is life, I'm out. It hurts too much, but I didn't do it myself because of my children.
Right.
And so now these people showed me the complete opposite. They're being kind to me for no reason. I don't understand. I questioned it, but I knew that it sparked something in me that made me come alive. And in that, I was like, okay, if this feeling is available in life, then I want to live it. And that gave me the courage to get out of my situation. And it was not ideal, and it was turbulent, and it was messy. And had I to do it over again, I probably would have waited till my sons graduated from high school. They were 17 and a half in their senior year, and it was very turbulent. But it was that kind of desperate moment that when I reached that threshold, there was no going back. And now it wasn't a thinking about it. It's I'm done. I need out, or I'm going to die here.
Right. And what's interesting is you don't know if maybe part of your son's life journey was to experience that turbulence, to use it for something in the future.
Oh, it all has.
Right.
Every part of it was divine.
Like sometimes I think, I wouldn't have, like I had a narcissist that I spent 12 years with, and I was the same as like, didn't know that this wasn't normal until one day somebody said something and I went, what? It was like, what? That's not normal? So, and if I think back, I'm like, would I change it? I don't think I would change how long I spent there or how long it took me to get out of it, because it informed this smart person that I became. Like you said, you become this person who looks back and go, whoa, I would have done that differently if I was who I am now back then. But I needed to be back then to become who I am now. which is amazing. So it's true. Kindness is important. And we don't know the effect we have on people. We don't know who, like, that's why I do the podcast. I'm like, I don't know who's going to listen to this and say, wow, maybe I do need to do something differently. And even if it's one person, my job is complete, because I need to help people see something different for themselves. That's my sole purpose, to help people see something different. I'm not going to save the whole world, because I'm me, and I can't talk to everybody all at once, but I am going to use this platform to help inform people of the alternatives and the things that can be done. And kindness, I think that's like a huge thing in the world, because I think it's missing in a lot of our current state of stress and overwhelm and fear, that we're not even doing regular like pleases and thank yous. And I don't want to get into the situation of the world, but let's bring back kindness. Make kindness a thing.
The key thing is that we don't realize the magic of benevolence. The people that were kind to me, they were just, it was a class that was for emergency medicine, and I became the patient. And I was very terrified, because again, my ex was very insecure and jealous, and I'm getting strapped to a gurney, by people, and I'm just like freaking out. But they were pulling leaves out of my hair, helping me get out of under the car, and and thanking me for helping them get past the class. And they all put money in and bought me a Best Buy card. Now, it seems silly, but to me, that was like, wait, you guys did that for me? Like, I just didn't even know what happened, but it short-circuited me. And those people did not have any idea the chaos I was living. And that's what I love about kindness, is that if you just choose it over and over and over again, you have no idea the chaos that people are going through in their lives. And that your one act of kindness can change the trajectory of their lives like it did mine.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that. Mm-hmm. And where can people find you?
I am fiercegrace.com.
Fiercegrace.com. And you work with men and women, right?
Say again?
You work with both men and women.
Absolutely.
And is it all one-on-one pretty much?
No. Okay. Actually, I have a 12-week course.
Okay.
That is for healing, and it fast tracks this information. It fast tracks. It's my 20 years of experience looped into 12 weeks, where we come together, and you have 4 one-on-one calls with me, but you also have a weekly group call. So what's beautiful about that is that we create a community of world changers. We create a community of people that want to be the best versions of themselves, and are willing to look in the mirror to see what is stopping me from living my best life.
Right.
And let's alchemize that into power and purpose and impact, because my outcome is to open people up so much, to fall in love so deeply with the self, that you see humanity through a different set of lenses. And when you see humanity through those lenses, all you want to do is give. And from that, we create an army of angels that helps change the world.
You just said it. That is our mic drop, my friends, because you just articulated my whole world vision. That's perfect.
There you go. We're in alignment.
We need an army of angels who have their shit together out in the world. And I'm going to drop into the show notes for sure the link to fiercegrace.com.
Thank you.
And there will also be, my friends, the link to grab your 10-step guide to freedom, because you can always do something. I tell people you're never stuck. Even if you can't make the big giant change that you want to make, you can always change something. You can always take those steps, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Each step you take moves you closer, right? Thank you so much, Jessie. It was so awesome talking with you. Thank you for having the grace to share your life and to help people move forward out of whatever is happening for them, because You're going to be the guiding light to help draw people out, right?
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that
you.
very much.
Friends in podcast land, share this with someone that you know could use this today. Have a good week, my friends, and I will see you next time. Take care. Hello, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you found it useful and you're like me and you want to help others, please share this, comment, like, subscribe, all of those things that will help this podcast to be found by more people. And if you found it useful, there's a chance that someone else will find it useful as well. If you ever have any questions, I am here to answer your questions. I would love to help you. My direct email address is info@heatherstewart.coach. You can also find me at heatherstewart.coach. And if you go over to my website, you will find copies of the podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram and my Facebook. And I do have a personal request because I do want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. So if you could give me a review, and my friend, I would love if you gave me a good one. If you could share this, if you could send it out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that you are finding your way back to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend. Be well, and we will see you again next time.